2.7 absolute value functions and graphs. We've already talked a little bit about this, but you want to know before you start that an absolute value function is going to be a V-shape. So every one of these absolute values is going to be a V-shape. I don't know what it's going to do. It might flip or shift or something like that, but you know going in it's a V-shape. What I would recommend you do is look inside the bars. That's going to indicate your left-right shift. But I like to think of it as what number is going to make 0 inside the bars. And in this case, in this example, it's just 0. And then we talked about transformations before. This number indicates you're shifting down 3. But you put those two things together and you've got the vertex of the V-shape. So your V-shape is going to have a vertex point at 0, -3. So we put a point there at 0, -3. And then after that, understand that the V-shape has kind of a slope of up 1 and over 1 and up 1 and over 1, or in the other direction, up 1 and over 1 the other way. So do a few points until you can see what this thing looks like. And then try to draw a nice V-shape. Not perfect, but do your best. Number 3. All right, remember what this negative was? That negative was a flip. And so we know that not only it's a V-shape, but it's going to be an upside-down V-shape. So what I like to do is I like to look inside here and think what number is going to make 0. And a lot of times you can do that in your head. -3 is going to make 0. And usually there's a number at the end, but in this case there's not. So you can think of it as +0 at the end. That way we can see that vertex point is going to be -3, 0. -3, 0 is right there. So we already know what it looks like. It's a V-shape. It's flipped. So just start at that vertex point, -3, 0, and go down 1 and over 1. Down 1 and over 1, so that you'll have your nice V-shape. Don't think about it too hard. It's going to look like that. If you want to label the vertex, that'd probably be a good idea. Let's do that. Number 5, there's no flip, so it's just a regular V-shape. You look inside here, and again, what number makes 0? It's going to be +2. This number over here is the downshift, but that tells me we are at 2, -1. So if you think about it, you can think about transformations as right 2 and down 1, right 2, down 1, or you can think about the vertex at being +2, -1. Either way. So again, draw your V-shape. You're going to go up 1 and over 1. Let's label that vertex point. There you go. 7, same thing, V-shape. -3 makes this 0. Or you can think about that as a shift of left 3. This means up 1. Your vertex is going to be -3, 1. Draw your V-shape. Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Label the vertex. Now, number 9's the hardest one so far. You can automatically tell it's going to be harder because whatever's inside the bars just looks more complicated. But we're going to attack it pretty much the same way. I see this negative, and this negative still means a flip. But that 2 in the front of the X is going to do something special. All right? So anyway, it's a little bit harder to do this one in your head. We want to think about what makes that equal 0. What makes that equal 0? And maybe you can't do that in your head, but what you could have done every single time is come over here and said, well, what makes that thing equal 0? And we could actually do the math, do the algebra here, solve for x. We're going to add 2, and that says 2x equals 2, and divide by 2 and get x equals 1. That's it. That's actually the number. That's the number. If you plug that number in, you'd get 0 in there. All right, that's going to be the middle of your absolute value bar. And then couple that with this thing, up 4. We can see the vertex is at 1, 4. 1, 4. Now, as we said before, that negative sign means this is going to be a flip. Okay, but this one's a little bit different. You can treat this 2 kind of like a slope. And so when I look at a 2, I want to think of it as 2 over 1. So in order to make my V shape, I'm not going to go down 1 and over 1. I'm going to go down 2 and over 1. Down 2 and over 1. Down 2 and over 1. Do it as many times as you want, or until you run out of room or whatever, but that's what's happening. The result is still a V shape, but it's just a little bit steeper V shape. Label your vertex 1, 4. Number 11 doesn't quite look as complicated, but it still has that number. Okay, that number 3 is going to look like a slope. So think about it as 3 over 1. But again, try to think of what number makes 0 right there. Okay, and people might say -3, but that can't be right. That would be 3 times -3, which would be -9. We want to make sure that 3x equals 0. So be very careful on that. If I solve that equation, I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and I get x equals 0. So there's the middle of your V shape. This says down 3, or you can think about your vertex as being 0, -3. 0, -3. Find that point first. And then remember how we had this slope number, this 3. We're going to go up 3 and over 1. And up 1, 2, 3 and over 1. And up 3 more and over 1. Like that. You still have a V shape, but it's just really steep. Label the vertex. And there you go.